Hopefully my girls will stay quiet. They are not doing a great job so far. It's summer over yet. Hey guys, it's Sarah, and I'm here today to do my July book haul revisited. So I am going back and watching some of my previous book hauls, and I'm kind of updating you on what I still own, what I've read, what I've unhauled, and what I still need to read based on those book hauls. So I've gone back for the past 2 years on my channel, and I'm going to July of 2015 and July of 2016. So the numbers this month are a little bit better, so that's good. The first book that I hauled in 2015 was 100 Days of Happiness. This is by Fausto Brizzi, and this one I did read, and I have since unhauled it. It was actually the first book that was sent to me by a publisher in order to read and review it, and it was really good. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars, I believe. It followed a man who lived in Italy, and he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, so he spent his last 100 days really just trying to make the most out of his time left on Earth, and, you know, spending time with his family and doing all the stuff he always wanted to do. And I really enjoyed it. It was really good. The next one that I hauled is Clan of the Cave Bear. This is by Jean M. Auel. And this one, I haven't hauled this copy of it because I got a different copy. The one that I hauled was a mass market paperback, and I ended up finding a really big floppy paperback copy of it. So I'm going to hang on to that one instead. So this one, I have not read it yet, but I have unhauled that copy. And the next one is Veronica Mars, and this is called The $1,000 Tan Line by Rob Thomas and Jennifer Graham. And this is a fun, cute little series that is part of the Veronica Mars mysteries and based on the TV show. These 2 people were also writers on the TV show. And I found this at Goodwill and just thought it was cute. I'd never seen these before, and I absolutely loved Veronica Mars, the TV show and the movie. So when I saw this, I got really excited. Haven't read it yet, but I have it and I really still want to. The next one I picked up is Crooked Letter, and this is by Tom Franklin. I haven't read this one yet either, but this one caught my attention at Goodwill, and I had heard a couple little things about it, and then when I read the synopsis, it sounded really interesting. It's about 2 boys who grew up together kind of on different sides of the tracks, and a girl ends up disappearing while they were teenagers, and one of the boys is suspected of it happening, of, you know, being the suspect of it. It was never solved, and then something happens when they are adults, and another disappearance happens, so he's again the prime suspect. So yeah, we'll see, but I still want to read it, and it's not very long, so I should get to this one soon. All right, the next one that I picked up, again at Goodwill, is Where'd You Go Bernadette, and this is by Maria Semple. And this one, I don't really know what this is about, but I've heard really good things, and then I've heard some like people who have read it and they don't really get all the hype. So we'll see, but this is being adapted into a film, and I believe Kristen Wiig is supposed to star in it, so I'm pretty interested in this still, and yeah, I just haven't quite read it yet. All right, these next few are going to be good ones. Okay, so Water for Elephants, and this is by Sarah Gruen. I bought this at Goodwill because I did not have a physical copy of it. I read this years ago, like a really long time ago, and absolutely loved it. I've read it twice already, and I definitely still want to read it again one day. But the first time I read it, I got it from my library, and then the second time I had it on my Kindle. I just didn't have a physical copy, but this is one of my all-time favorite books. Like, it's in the top 10. So I absolutely love it. If you haven't heard of this, I'd be really surprised, but this follows a circus in the 1920s, and it's just a lot of drama and a lot of things happening, and there's some abusing of the animals, and they're trying to fix that. And yeah, this was a fantastic book. I absolutely loved it both times I read it, and I'm excited to read it again in the future. And this next one I've also read already, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I loved this book. This book is kind of a dystopian type of book, but it's a little bit more on the sci-fi aspect of it, and it involves virtual reality and a kind of a scavenger hunt trying to find an Easter egg inside this virtual reality that a millionaire has created that everyone is really dependent on. And whoever ends up finding this Easter egg in here gets to inherit his fortune. That was kind of his will that he left when he passed on. And oh, this was really good. It has a lot of 80s references, which I really enjoyed. I got a lot of them, and yeah, it was fantastic. I really, really liked this one. If I ever do want to reread this, I'll probably do the audiobook because I hear that the audiobook is really, really good. So loved this. Absolutely loved it. And this is also being adapted to a film. So whenever that decides to come out, I'm really excited to see that. And I believe that Steven Spielberg has the rights to direct this film. So you know it's going to be good. This next one was one of my favorites from 2015, and that is The Martian by Andy Weir. This is, again, another sci-fi book. Oh, I loved this book. Okay, if you haven't heard of this, again, I'd be surprised, but this one follows an astronaut named Mark Watney, and he and his crew do this mission on Mars that's pretty dangerous. They get involved in a storm that happens while they're there. Very, very dangerous situation. He ends up getting stranded on Mars. His crew has to leave without him. And it's him surviving on Mars and communicating with Earth, and they're trying to get him back. But, you know, you can't just like skip a ride over to Mars. It's really difficult to do that. So he ends up having to survive on this planet. Oh, it was so good. It was, again, this was one of my favorites of 2015, but it was fantastic. The humor in here is fantastic. Mark Watney was one of my favorite characters of all time. I just loved him. I loved his snarkiness and the way he just went into immediate survival mode, and just the stuff he did was like crazy. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. And the movie is really, really good as well. It starred Matt Damon. It was fantastic. And yeah, another favorite. Okay, let's talk about another favorite. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is a book that I picked it up because I didn't have a physical copy, and I had read it before, and I really, really loved it. Now, I want to reread this one sometime soon because I remember reading it and loving it, but I can't remember a lot of the details. I know it's a circus. I know it only happens at nighttime, and there is some big rivalry between some of the acts, and it spans over a long time, like it's a big, long rivalry. So I definitely still want to read this one again, even though I have read it. I'm probably going to do the audiobook version just because I have read it before. But this is also supposed to be turned into a film. I don't know if they've even cast it yet or not, but it's still kind of in the beginning parts. But I know the rights have been purchased. So I definitely remember loving it. I just need to remember why. All right, let's talk about another favorite. I'm not kidding. This was a good month for me. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This book moved me. It was my first time reading it, and my mom has been bugging me to read this. This is one of her favorite books of all time, and I never had to read this in school. Like, none of my schooling ever had this as required reading, which shocks people, but it's true. And I loved this. I think I read this for Booktubeathon in 2015, which was probably not the best idea because it was a book that I didn't want to speed my way through. I took my time and I devoured it, and it was so moving and so important and just hit so many nails on the head, and it was just gorgeous. And I absolutely loved it. This is one of my favorite books of all time. Like, it's right underneath Harry Potter, like right there. And just, oh, it was fantastic, beautiful. I can't believe it took me so long to finally read it, but I will definitely read this multiple times. I know I will. And yeah, I loved it so much. All right, this next one I have also read. It wasn't a favorite, but I have read it, and that is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. And I really enjoyed this book when I read it. Since then, I wouldn't lower my rating of it. I can't remember what I rated it. Either a 4 or a 5. We're dog sitting right now, and she's playing with her chew toy. So sorry about that. But yeah, this follows a young boy whose grandfather passes away, and he ends up traveling to where his grandfather is from, and from the stories he's told him growing up, and he wants to see if all this is true because he talks about these children that have abilities, and they all live on this island. And so this boy travels there to see, you know, if it's true and if it's real and what happens, and he comes across these people, and it's true and it's real, and they all have peculiarities. So they have different abilities. They keep themselves hidden from the real world. There's a very specific way they keep themselves hidden. It's very unique, very interesting. It has a whole lot of different drawings and photographs. Let me see if I can find a good photograph. Kind of creepy photographs a little bit, but I don't know. I'm a little bit torn about this one because I really liked it when I read it. It was great, but I don't know if I enjoyed it enough to really care about continuing on with the next 2 books because this is a trilogy. Or if I do, I'd probably just get them from the library. I don't think I'm going to buy the full series. So I'm a little bit torn on it because I'm just not 100% sure I want to continue or not. And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I did read it, and when I read it, I enjoyed it. All right, so the next one I hauled is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. This one I have not read yet. This is a long one. It's over 600 pages, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. And I did read my first Brandon Sanderson book a couple of months ago and absolutely loved it. Completely loved it. It was a young adult book. This one is an adult fantasy book, so this is going to be a lot more complex than that one, but I have really just heard nothing but good things about it. And I believe this has to do with warriors who have abilities based on some sort of color spectrum, I believe. Like, that's why there's a whole bunch of colors right here. I think that that's kind of a big part of their magic system. That's all I really know, and I think it follows sisters, maybe. So yeah, I still really want to read this. I just haven't gotten there yet. And along with this one, I also hauled the Mistborn series that were in the white UK editions. Now, these I have unhauled. And the reason is I ended up getting the American paperbacks because I really liked them too. And they were just like, you know, they're the floppy paperbacks that I love so much. And then the UK ones I actually sent to someone as a gift because I knew that she wanted them. So I sent them to her as a gift instead. So I still have the Mistborn series. Haven't read it yet. I just have a different edition on my shelves. Okay, so that was all from 2015. So moving on to 2016, the first one that I hauled is Stolen Songbird by Danielle L. Jensen. This one I have not read yet either, but this one is a book that follows trolls. There's trolls in here, and that's all I needed to know. I've heard very good things about it. People who have read it have called it a nice surprise. They were surprised that they liked it so much. But yeah, I heard trolls and I was like, I'm in. The next one I hauled is a book that was sent to me for review, and I did read and review it already, and that is The Light of Paris by Eleanor Brown, and I loved this book. This is a really great adult contemporary book about a woman who is going through a pretty hard time in her marriage. She ends up going home and staying with her mother for a while just to kind of get away from it. And she ends up finding some old letters and journals that her grandmother kept while she was a young woman living in Paris. And so she starts reading these journals and really finds comfort in them and finds her grandmother's life and her life at these times were very parallel. So she ends up learning a lot about herself. And it was fantastic. I really loved this. It was very atmospheric. I could really picture Paris like in the 1920s and 30s, and just, it was really great. I really loved this book. This next book I just read recently, actually, and that is Puddle Jumping, and this is written by Amber L. Johnson. This book was sent to me from an anonymous person. I don't know who it was. I participated in like a little Facebook book swap, so we all kind of traded stuff, and I don't know who actually sent this to me because there was like no return address or anything. So whoever sent it, if you're watching, thank you, because I absolutely loved it. I read this in one sitting. It was fantastic. This follows a young girl and a young boy. The young girl is normal, I guess you could say. She doesn't have any disabilities or anything. She's just a teenage girl. And the young boy is autistic. So they end up meeting when they're younger, and she notices something's different about him, but she doesn't quite know what. And then they end up kind of parting ways and not really seeing each other for a few years, and then they meet back up in high school, and then she realizes that he is autistic, and he's a high functioning, he's in school, he's in normal school, he just needs a little bit of extra help, and they become very good friends, and then they develop an actual romantic relationship, and it was just fantastic. It was beautiful, it was lovely, and it was just refreshing to see an autistic person fall in love because you don't see that a whole lot in books. You can read books about autism or characters who are autistic, but they don't have like romantic relationships. And this is the first time I've read something like that, and I thought it was fantastic, you know, because everyone deserves that. So it was wonderful. I loved it. It was 5 stars. Again, one sitting. Love it. This next one, I again don't know who sent it to me because I got it in a swap and just, I don't know who sent it to me. But I got Suck in Your Stomach and Put on Some Color. I always get that wrong. Suck in your stomach. Nope. Nope. Suck your stomach in and put some color on. There we go. I got it. I always do it wrong. This is by Shelley Rushing Tomlinson. And this is a nonfiction book about being brought up Southern and in Southern households and what Southern mothers say to their children. I'm probably going to know a lot of this because my family is from the South. So I haven't read this yet, but it sounds like a fun, quick read. So eventually I will. I just haven't done it yet. Okay, this next one I got in another trade. It did come from my friend Jody, and she sent this to me, and I'm so excited about it still. I haven't read it, but I'm still really excited. So she sent me The Child Thief, and this is by Brom. This one I think I'm going to put on my TBR for October. Like, I'm officially going to say I'm going to read this October, and this is a take on Peter Pan, but it's very dark and twisty from what I hear, and it's not like the happy Disney version of Peter Pan. I think he actually steals children. So I'm really excited to read this still. Even though I haven't done it yet, I'm super excited too. It's pretty chunky, but I definitely want to read this in October because it's going to be kind of like a creepy, spooky read, and this might be my main one, but yeah. I'm still really excited, and now that I have it in my hands, I want to read it now. But I'll wait till October. But yeah, so I'm still like super excited this is even on my shelves. All right, so the next one that I hauled is The Signature of All Things. This is by Elizabeth Gilbert, and this is one that I want to read because I want to give Elizabeth Gilbert another shot in reading her fiction. Now, I read Eat, Pray, Love by her, and I hated it. I've been very vocal about that. I did not like that book. I tried to read it the first time I tried to read it, and I DNF'd it. I couldn't make it past the Italy part. I enjoyed the Italy part because I was so focused on the food, and that's like, ooh, that's what I want. But the other stuff, I was just like, I can't. I couldn't get through the second part of it when she was in India, I think. And then so I didn't finish it. I went back a couple years later and said, I want to give this another shot because everyone loves it so much. The movie was about to come out, and I was like, let me just read it start to finish, no matter how I feel, and give the whole thing a shot. And I did, and I hated it. I wanted to throw the book across the room for many, many reasons, but I couldn't stand, I couldn't stand the narrative of it. And so much of it just made me cringe and just made me go, what was the point of this if you're going to break every rule that you had for yourself? So it just, I didn't like it. I didn't like the movie either, unfortunately. So it just wasn't for me. And I've come to terms with that. Everyone else in America loves it, but I hated it. So I still want to give her a shot, though. I'm not going to read any more of her nonfiction. I think just her personally, I'm not the biggest fan. But I want to give her fiction a shot just to see. If I start reading this and I can't take it, then I'll be done with her and I'll know. But I didn't want to just judge her based on the one book that I didn't like. I won't read any of her nonfiction stuff because I've heard very blasé things about the rest of it too. So yeah, but I'm willing to give this one a shot, see what I think. See if I get along with her better with fiction. So, yeah. All right, the next one I got is Legacy of Kings. This is written by Eleanor Herman. This is a take on, I believe, Alexander the Great as a teenager. And Eleanor Herman is actually a historian, so she has done her research, and from what I hear, it's very well written and it's very well plotted out, and it makes a lot of sense because she's very knowledgeable on this time period, but just based on her profession. So I'm still really excited to read this. The third book is about to come out, so I need to start getting on this because I do have the first two. But as soon as they did a cover change for the paperbacks, I just loved it. I love this cover so much. All right, this next one I haven't read yet either, but I really want to. And that's Mudvayne by Taryn Fisher. Taryn Fisher is an author I really want to read because I've heard she's very dark and twisted, and I love that stuff. So yeah, this is an anniversary edition of Mudvayne that came out that she was selling on her Instagram, and she was selling signed personalized copies. So I did order it. It took a long time for it to come in, which is fine. But it says, to Sarah, Taryn Fisher, and she kissed it. Isn't that cute? She's adorable. So yeah, I haven't read it. I don't even really know what it's about, but I've heard very good things about her as an author in general, if you like that kind of stuff, and I do. So again, I want to read it. I just haven't done it yet. And the next book that I hauled was a book that I got for review, and that is The Sixth Idea by P.J. Tracy. This is part of the Monkey Wrench series, and I think it was book number 7, and it was the first one I had read. But when the publisher contacted me, they said you don't have to read these in order. You can read them as standalones. It just follows the same 2 detectives. And I thought this one was okay. I have since unhauled it, but I did read it, and I think I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was written pretty well. I liked the action in it, but there were a couple times where I could tell that there were some things being referenced that happened in other books that I didn't quite understand because I didn't read those. So there were just little things here and there. Overall, you can read it as a standalone. I still enjoyed it, but I could definitely tell, you know, that there was more to these stories. So, but it was still good. I liked it. I don't know if I'll pick up any other books in the series, to be honest, but for a review book, it was pretty good. And the next one I also got as a review book, and that is With Love from the Inside by Angela Pessell. I have since unhauled this. I actually sent it to Alana, and I really liked this one a lot. It was about a woman who was on death row for killing her infant son, and she had been on death row for a long time, at least 20 years, I think. It was a long time. At the time when her son's death happened, she also had an older daughter who ended up kind of in the wind because her husband had passed away too. So she kind of ended up on her own. And we follow her daughter as an adult in her own marriage, in her own life, trying to put her past behind her. However, some things have started happening that are kind of making everyone question whether or not her mother actually killed her brother. So she ends up trying to decide whether or not she wants to bring all this stuff back up, even though she tried to put it in the past, and try to see if she can get her mother off death row or just let it be because it's been that way for so long. It was really good, very good family drama, and very good, you know, spending the whole time going, did she do this or didn't she? Because you really kind of don't know. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So that was a good one. And last but not least, the last book that I hauled, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I haven't read this yet, you guys. I really, really thought I was going to read this as soon as I got it because I pre-ordered this and I just haven't done it yet. I don't know. I think I picked it up one time to read. I did. I picked it up for Slay That Series readathon, but then this readathon got postponed, and I don't think they've had it since. And so I had it like sitting there ready to go because I was going to read it for that, and then the readathon never happened, and I was like, nah. So I didn't end up reading it, but I still really, really want to. I should actually read this year. I really should, because I bought it last year. It came out last year. I'm still really interested in it. I have heard so many mixed things about this. I have seen 5-star reviews. I have seen 1-star reviews. And so I'm not really scared of that. I think I will enjoy this anyway, just because it's Harry Potter. Like, and you have to really go into this knowing that this is not by J.K. Rowling. It's not. I think she helped in certain aspects of it, but she's not the main writer of this. There's 2 other main writers that wrote this play. So it's not her vision. Totally. I'm sure she had some sort of influence on it, and I'm sure she worked with them, but you have to kind of go in there knowing that, because this is not going to be the Harry Potter that you know and that you're used to. This is 19 years into the future. This is following Harry's son and his journey, you know, going to Hogwarts and stuff. All the original characters, from what I understand, are still in here, but they're, you know, there's 19 years later. You change in 19 years, right? So, yeah, but we'll see. And I still obviously really want to read this because I have it. So, yeah, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I want to read it. I'm just not sure when it's going to happen. I really should do it this year, to be honest with you. I'm surprised I haven't yet, but yeah. Yeah. All right, guys, so those are all the books that I hauled for the past 2 years for the month of July. My totals were, I hauled 26 books in total. I read 11 of them. That's pretty good. That's a little bit less than half, I guess, but that's probably the most that I've done for my revisits that I've done so far. Those are the most that I've read. And I unhauled 7 of them, and then I still have 11 on my shelves to read. So not too bad. not too bad. So read 11, still need to read 11. That's half and half basically right there, based on what I still own. So I'm good with those odds. Okay, so for these revisits, I've actually been picking 1 or 2 books as well that I'm going to put on my nightstand so they can kind of be at the forefront of my mind to pick up soon. So I'm going to look through these stacks and see what I want to pick because I don't really know. Gosh, I really don't know what I want to read. I don't know why I want to save this for like fall or winter for some reason. I don't know. I don't know which one to pick. All right. Okay, I think I made a decision. Okay, so I picked 2. That was hard. I never had such a hard time like picking a couple things. Usually I was just like, yep, this one and this one and this one. It was hard. So I picked up Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I know that this will go super, super fast because it is a play. It's written in play format. So it's like this. So I know this will go super fast. I'm pretty positive I'm going to enjoy it regardless. It will not be one that I unhaul. This is my Harry Potter collection. So this will not be an unhaul book for me afterwards. And then I'm going to pick up The Signature of All Things by Elizabeth Gilbert just because I want to give it a try, see what I think. I'm not 1,000% sure I'm going to enjoy it, but I want to give it a try and see. And if I get surprised and I do enjoy it, then that'd be fantastic. So yeah, I'm going to put these both on my nightstand so they can be on my radar to read soon. Hopefully I can get to those, but yeah, so those are the ones I picked. All right, guys, that's it for me today. So pretty solid hauls, pretty solid reading for them too, and still have a few to read, but that's okay. So let me know down below if you guys have bought any books this month and if there's any coming out that you're really looking forward to. I'd love to know that, and I will see you guys again soon. Have a great day. Bye.